today. My name's Alycia, and Julie just joined. And this morning, we're going to be sharing with you all about the Reframing Elder Abuse Project and our Eagle project over at the National Center on Elder Abuse, and how to use these tools to engage your audiences. So let's get started. Let me move this out of the way. All right, so a couple reminders before we really dive in. I just want to remind you all to make sure that you're muted unless you have any questions or we're having any interactive slides. We will have some interactive slides. We'd love to hear from you all and your experiences. I understand we have a number of different professions here today. We are happy to send any materials that we share with you today and any resources that we discuss or that you might be interested in. And we're also interested in any evaluations or feedback that you may have.
All right, thanks so much, Alycia. Well, hello, everybody. We, as Alycia was saying, are so thrilled to be here. And who are we? Well, I'm Julie Schoen, and I'm the Deputy Director of the National Center on Elder Abuse. And Alycia is our reframing expert. And we are a grant-funded program. So the NCA is funded by a grant from the Administration on Community Living. We're one of the 26 resource centers that they fund. And that grant goes to, as you can see in the lower left-hand corner of the slide, the Keck School of Medicine at USC. So it gets a little confusing. So we just want to clarify that for all of you so you know who you're talking to. And today we're going to be taking you through some very new and exciting evidence-based research on reframing elder abuse. And we're going to spend some time today just talking about, well, why is there even a need for this? And hopefully those of you that are in the field can share some of your experiences with us as we move forward. And then we're going to learn how to apply this research strategy that has been developed. So hopefully you can see how it's used by us and by others in the field. And then we hope to do a little bit of practice with all of you, which is the most fun at the end. We ask a lot in an hour though, don't we, Alycia?
We sure do. We really want to get it all in.
So before we even get into the next slide, I just want to say, you know, Alycia and I have been doing this for a while, and it takes a lot of practice. And we just want you to have some fun with us, sit back and listen. And as we said, this will these materials will be made available to all of you so that you can have them and ask questions from there. But I think we have a question to ask of our group first, don't we, Alycia?
We sure do. So we were wondering what, based on your experiences, how you would solve the problem of elder abuse. If you have any ideas, please enter them in the chat. And we'd love to hear what you think it would be needed to solve the problem of elder abuse.
And then hopefully we can just sign off and be done, right? We don't have to do anymore. So we know, we know it's a big ask, but we think some of you probably thought about it before. And we'd like to hear what you think. I'm just be looking at the chat here to see what anybody types in and see what you would do. Okay. Have some people that would more education on elder abuse.
That's a great one.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, but it would not solve. Very good. Education would help, but would not solve. More resources, absolutely. And we hope that we help with that part of the equation today as we move forward. What else? Anything else? More funding, yes.
Yes.
like everyone, we're all looking at more funding for this, more community resources, absolutely. Let's see. This is education. Anything you learned from COVID that you think we could use a little help? We've learned a lot during COVID time about this problem as it has really escalated during the time of COVID. So we hope to share some of that with you too. Okay. All right, well, I think as we warm up here a little bit, we'll probably get a little more discussion, but you're right. We need a lot more education and resources and communication. And that's what today is all about as we move forward.
Right. So what is the Reframing project and what are we doing to try to work in those answers there and those ideas to end elder abuse or to address elder abuse. So first we wanted to, like any good project, it started off with the problem. We wanted to understand what was contributing to elder abuse and how we were able to communicate this issue with our target populations. We realized that we had a communications problems because we had a communication problem because we had all of these public awareness materials and events, social media campaigns, but we had no idea if our messages were getting out to folks. And we noticed a lot of folks were avoiding us at conventions and um, and fairs. So we worked with an organization called the Frameworks Institute and to create a communications research project to understand how the public currently thinks about elder abuse in the United States and to use the understandings of that research to create a new communication strategy that is productive with the public. So we've gotten into the point of understanding and we devised a plan of what people understand about elder abuse. And so now we're on the goal of disseminating these findings. So as the lead elder abuse resource center in the nation, we are disseminating this new elder abuse communication strategy on elder abuse with aging professionals with the hope that you all will incorporate it into yours and your team's practices. And this strategy is the Reframing Elder Abuse Project. So the main goal and long-term goal seems to, are you seeing this top part here, Julie?
Yes, I am. I'm seeing goal.
Okay, perfect. So the long-term goal, as it says here, is to build a society that makes informed choices on policies and practices that address elder abuse based on valid and reliable information. So really tying in lots of your ideas that you've already mentioned.
So to get started with this, the Administration on Community Living came to all of us at the National Center on Elder Abuse, and they said, you know, we're not having a lot of luck getting messaging out. This is kind of a messy subject, and we have asked the Frameworks Institute to help us. So the Frameworks Institute literally went out into the malls of America, and they have all the videos to prove it, and asked people, asked the public what they think about elder abuse. And I was wondering if some of you would like to comment on what you think, how you think the public perceives elder abuse. And once again, we'll look at the chat and read what you have encountered. Because I know we have a lot of SMP people. I was the director of the California SMP, so shout out to my SMP folks. And also ombudsman. I went through ombudsman training early on in my career, so I know how rigorous that is. And lots of law enforcement that we'll be addressing later. So what have you heard? Why do you think we've had such a tough time with talking about elder abuse? Okay, let's see. There's some people typing. Okay. Anybody? Quiet group, I know. That's hard. Well, it's we really can go on to the next slide if you would like, Alycia.
All right. I wonder if a lot of folks have heard about elder abuse or perceptions in the field when they're working too, Julie. Maybe you'll remember as we move forward.
Yes, exactly. Because I want to tell you that when I started, because as I said, my background is as an attorney and doing Medicare hearings and appeals, and then directing the California SMP. And we would literally go out to conferences and have our booths and tables when I joined the NCEA, and people would walk by our table and not want to look at us. They saw National Center on Elder Abuse. They would say, "Oh, that's too bad. That's, yeah, we know that happens, but we really there's really not much we can do about it." And so that was our main encounter. We literally could not get people to the table. They would come, grab a pen or something off the table we were giving away we'd use, but they didn't want to stay and talk with us and engage. and talk about any solutions or what we were even doing to combat fraud. And so we have from Vanessa that most people think of physical abuse only when there are other ways elders are abused as well. Absolutely, Vanessa.
Great point.
Or they only think about financial. Financial gets a lot in the news, or they don't put them together. You know, physical is over here, financial is over here. When you as professionals know that where there's one form of abuse, there's could be emotional abuse and neglect and other types of abuse happening also. So that's a very good perception. Anyone else? Okay, well, as it says here, our goal today is to take you through so you can improve the way that you're able to interact with your clients in your community, in writing social media and press releases, and be able to engage people and get them to the table. But first, we need to wade through a lot of swampiness. So this is what Frameworks came back and said to us. They said, you know, here's what you've got so far. The public, when we talk to them and we ask them about elder abuse, well, they say, well, that is unacceptable. You know, quite indignant about the fact that, you know, elder abuse shouldn't be, but they really don't think much about it at all otherwise. You know, unless it's something personal, they really don't think about it. They definitely don't think that sexual abuse happens. You know, older adults are put into a category of that can't possibly happen to them, when we all know, those of you as ombudsmen have probably had to encounter some really pretty horrific cases. And we know there's been a lot more attention and needs to be a lot more attention paid on sexual abuse of older adults. We still have so much to learn. And I feel like as a National Center, we have a lot more to delve into and to provide for resources. And many people don't think that neglect would qualify as abuse, when that is actually the #1 form of abuse. People that are neglected can't often let us know they're being abused because they're at the hands of someone else and a caregiver. And so they are unable to voice this. And we have the whole kind of section on self-neglect also, where people are in a situation where they don't know about resources or help. Then we have the perception in our swamp of things that are dependency equals vulnerability. And this is something that we'll bring up and discuss more about as we go along, that vulnerability and what that word says to the general public, and how we can work around that word, which seems to send a message of inevitability, they're vulnerable, this is just going to happen. And then that leads rise to paternalistic behaviors. Oh, we'll just take care of it for you. We'll take, you know, so that older adults and their sense of agency are lost. But again, this is how the public in the swamp gets very stuck along the way. All right, then we just look at it as modern life is the problem. I think one of the most amazing takeaways for me personally from this whole Frameworks research was that people, when asked about nursing homes, saw nursing homes as an unfortunate necessity. Wow. And I think COVID really pointed that out, didn't it? It really shined a light on that people in nursing homes were kind of forgotten about until they weren't. And then all of a sudden we were, you know, having this epidemic within nursing homes. So just a call to action. I know my ombudsmen are already there, but you know, this absolutely has to change, and we need to think of them as communities of care and where people can live and thrive and have quality of life. I need to get off that soapbox and move on. But also that caregivers are pushed to the limit, which is true. Caregivers are under so much stress, and the resources they don't know about, or sometimes are very reluctant to ask for. And then there's just our whole cultural devaluation of older people. Something that the team is always very tired of hearing me say is, you know, what does anti-aging mean? When you see anti-aging cosmetics, what message is that sending? They're against aging? Okay, those are the subliminal message we receive. And then they put spotlights on the individual, but this is not really a global problem. It's just, oh, greedy people or lazy people, or only people with low moral character would perpetrate this on older adults. There's sickos. There's the whole payback philosophy that, well, maybe they were abused as children and now it's payback time. And then a lot of people just say, well, older people are pretty difficult. And so, what can you do? And they either think that everyone's responsible or no one's responsible. So I think if you think about it, this is a pretty accurate representation of how the public does perceive elder abuse and gets stuck in the swamp and we can't move forward. So when they asked people about the solutions to elder abuse, most people said, well, it's just part of life and nothing can be done. Or they said surveillance and prosecution, which certainly have their place in the whole atmosphere of elder abuse. Or they wanted more support for caregivers, which is certainly a very positive, kind of that lily pad in the swamp of our solutions. Yes, absolutely, we need to do that. And then awareness and education, which many of you pointed out from the very beginning as something that would be definitely a solution in helping us get out of the swamp of elder abuse. Have I forgotten anything, Alycia, in there?
No, wonderful, wonderful.
Well, Alycia is going to now build us a bridge out of this swamp.
Yes, yes. So there were some lily pads in there, but we really want to be able to utilize this swamp and the sticks in the mud and making sure that we're applying it to bridge more effective communications and really engage our audiences, whether it be the lay public or professional audiences, or we are advocating for more funding. Come on now. There we go. Alrighty. So, after the Frameworks Institute did their research on what's in the swamp of elder abuse, we worked with them to use these understandings to determine what to avoid and what to advance in our communications. From there, we came up with the structure of justice narrative. This is a new way to talk about elder abuse that uses the value and metaphors to avoid barriers in the swamp and enhance public understanding of your cause, the consequences, and solutions of elder abuse. So really creating a formed way to share your communications and make it in an effective and concise manner. So the first step in the structure of justice narrative is to talk about why your cause matters. Why does elder abuse prevention matter? We use a common American value, and this is justice. The value was tested by the Frameworks Institute, and it helps us promote a collective responsibility and boost support for our issue among the public. So what does this mean? How do I apply it? So you'll start off by saying something like, a just society works to make sure everyone is free from the threat of abuse at every stage of life. In order to live up to our ideal of justice for all, we need to work to address the social issue of elder abuse. So I used words like we, I talked about our society, I talked about us at every stage of life, and this is really what we want to do to introduce our cause. So now the second step in the justice narrative is you want to highlight social structures. So how do social structures work and what isn't working? And you want to create a metaphor so you can really get somebody's mind connected with your cause. So you want to use examples and explanations and get a visual understanding and connectedness with elder abuse. So you could say something like, it's important to understand what creates the risk of abuse as we age. A strong and just society is just like a structure supported by many beams. We need strong beams that are frequently maintained. You can think of these beams as policies and programs that reinforce the relationships and resources needed for health, happiness, and safety. When those support beams are missing or not maintained, the structure is weaker and may not meet our expectations that people are able to live free from maltreatment. So this is the example that we at the NCEA enjoy using of George. And we have GIFs and a PSA to help folks understand the structure of justice. So we're using the metaphor of the beams in this case for George. And so this is the example we use. We call our friend here George, and he's 77, and we expand on social structure metaphor with an explanatory chain with the individual example. So we're not going to make George the key character here. We are going to make these structures and beams important to keep George from being at risk for elder abuse here as the star of our story. So we'll say something when we're talking to folks like George spends most of his time at home alone since his wife died. His daughter lives too far away to visit regularly. His neighborhood lacks reliable public transit and many age-friendly civic spaces. Fewer interactions mean fewer opportunities for walking, talking, or laughing. With these normal healthy experiences missing, George's physical, cognitive, and emotional health have gotten worse. His daughter doesn't know what she can do or where she can turn for help. Without the structure of support, it's easy to see how George encountered an unsafe situation, or if he will. The problem might go unnoticed. George's story of social isolation is not uncommon. With millions of our fellow Americans living in similar situations, it's fair to say our nation's social structure needs repair. Just as one beam alone can't support a building, individuals and family members can't alone single handedly manage the problem of social isolation and the corresponding risks of maltreatment. And here you can see George's daughter trying to hold up a George with just one single beam. So the next step in the structure of justice narrative is to address what we can do. So we could say something along the lines as we did before to highlight our social supports. We could say something like, the good news is there are many ways to strengthen our social supports through policies, services, and programs that keep us integrated in our communities as we age. So we're creating that visualization in our communications about our cause to prevent elder abuse. We're talking about all these social programs rather than focusing on George that can uplift George and help solve the problem of elder abuse. So then we can highlight these structures as well, right? Our community centers and public transportation so that George can be an active part of the community. And we can talk about designing and equipping our community centers to work as intergenerational spaces that allow older people to build relationships and participate in the work, play, and life of our neighborhoods, right? These are cohesive solutions rather than focusing on an intervention solution instead of blaming, like we were talking about in the swamp, the family, or we're focusing on George only and what George did wrong. We're going to expand here and talk about all of the things that we can do to support George and prevent elder abuse. We'll talk about new and better ways to arrange and coordinate teams and agencies and programs that can specifically work with older adults as we see here. By doing all of this, we can strengthen the support structure and reduce social isolation, protect communities and families against elder abuse. And we can say and finish um, our quotes here by saying something along the lines of, we're going to work to build a nation that lives up to our promise to promote justice for all. So really calling back that first step of the structure of justice narrative. And I do always suggest thinking about these solutions and offering them to the folks that you're speaking with and suggesting things like transportation or what in-home support services you have in your area, whether that be APS or AAA services, and education and awareness partners or your own materials. And empowering aging, right? Julie was talking about lots of the subliminal messaging about preventing aging. We really want to make that an empowering process and talk about the aging issues in political discourse and the matching or lacking research and multidisciplinary teams available to folks in our communities.
Yeah, that's just it, Alycia. We've just learned so much from all this. And just you'll see at the end of the presentation, we're going to show you where all these resources are, the gifts that you just saw on the last page. You can have those, download those. In fact, we have a whole strategy to give you. But right now, we're working you through that system of justice and support that really has brought people to the table. When people think of social justice, elder justice, they suddenly light up and think, well, I want that. I'm for that. Tell me more. And it's been such a changeover. I mean, I have to say, I was very skeptical when this started because I've done things the way I've done things for many, many years. And it took me a while to come on board with this and to see how much it really, really works. And so at the National Center on Elder Abuse, we had to look at all of our publications, and we have many, and we had to redesign them and start over. So here is one of our most popular pieces that we had, and it's the red flags of abuse. And as you look at this, what strikes you about this? And I apologize, there were a couple of really good comments in the chat previous from Stephanie and Rosalind, just saying some of the things that they've experienced. They said that ignoring this topic is almost like saying it will never happen to me, which is very true. And then there's also the perception that elders are not capable of providing for themselves. And absolutely. So when we show you this slide and this flyer that we were so very proud of for many years, what's the first thing that kind of strikes you? Anybody want to put a comment about what they see about those? Oh, I don't know, maybe the photographs or something in there. Anything that strikes you? Let's see if anybody's typing. Here we go. Isolation, absolutely. Okay, so here's this photo, woman, face covered, she's alone, hopeless. Does this give you kind of a hopelessness? The second person isn't even facing us to look at us, turned away. And maybe the last picture with hands is okay. Fear, absolutely. And yes, definitely helplessness. And yes, you're keying into what this, the first thing that people see on this flyer is this very hopeless, and it might make you not want to pick it up, which could have been part of our problem. And then it's very, very verbiage heavy. We'll put a little close up here because for my eyes, I need to have it a little bigger. But here's some of the examples that we have of talking about the different types of abuse. And so for financial abuse, we were saying lack of amenities victims could afford, vulnerable elder adult voluntarily giving uncharacteristically excessive financial reimbursement / gifts for needed care and companionship. That's a mouthful. That's a lot to say right there. If I'm trying to read this and get something out of this, it's a lot. And we said, gee, what are we really telling people? Do we want them to read this? Do we want them to engage with us or not? And so we really had to rethink this and rewrite this flyer. And Alycia is going to show you the after.
Thank you. Yes, so we did need to update it. No wonder everybody was running away from the table. So we changed it up and we removed all of the photos of older adults who appeared to be lacking agency and who appeared to be vulnerable. And we removed those photos completely and condensed our verbiage to items that are easy to comprehend, and of course items that are also inclusive, right? We're putting this as our communities. We talk about the structures of support in here. We are now creating a collective responsibility and creating a community strength here. Let's see, do I have here we go. So I'm going to, of course, maximize this verbiage here. Really want you to be able to take a look here. You could see that we're addressing the justice narrative here, and we're talking about our structures of support. We offer a way to address elder abuse by contributing to this ongoing construction project, right? Not an end all be all point here, that we're going to continue to be able to have a way to address this issue as we all age. And we end it by referring back to that justice point at the beginning, that everyone at every age deserves justice. If you see on the bottom here under the financial side signs that we've enlarged, there's no longer a victim perpetrator highlight or talk about a vulnerable person. We are just addressing things with the and staying out of the swamp by addressing these are the changes in the bank account. There are unpaid bills, fraudulent signatures. No longer putting this as a victim focused issue. So let's take a look at another example.
So for us, as you can see, Alycia and I are sitting here with World Elder Abuse Awareness Day banners behind us, coming up June 15th. Anyway, had to put that plug in, but you'll see that plug in again too as at the end of the presentation. But we do a lot of work about World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and we like to promote it, and we had a lot of verbiage and a lot of social media. So this would be a typical Facebook post that we would put up for people to try to get engaged, and we would use social media to promote, and this was the one we used back in 2016. And there is a little logo down there that we used to use, and it is kind of hard to see. That was a little bit part of the problem, although it had a nice diverse tone to it, which we really do like. Again, it wasn't quite reflective of what we were trying to say about solutions or anything coming together. So we think that the new logo that you can see now, which I'm already spoiler alert, putting that up there. But it's kind of it's right away, every year 5 million elders are abused in the US alone. Right away you get that fatalistic wave, right? There isn't much you can do about that. There's, when people talk about the tsunamis of aging or whatever, people just turn off. They think, well, I can't do anything about that. You can't stop a tsunami from coming, rather than a different approach. So, but this is how we used to, we could grab people's attention, but then it didn't have any solutions for them. So there was kind of left with, okay. Then we would just tell people to call Adult Protective Services, which is a good solution. We work hand in hand with the National Adult Protective Services Association, or then we want them to talk to their friends about elder abuse. One person can make a difference, but Alycia is going to probably is going to show you a different way that we hope to make a change.
Yes, thank you. So now this is a lot less word heavy, and we're talking about, again, taking that community approach and the structure of justice. We're talking about all of us aging and this being a collective issue. No one in our logo now seems to be vulnerable or lacking any agency in these photos. Everybody seems to be involved here. We have a photo here that's not only diverse in our cultures and our beautiful communities, but also diverse in age. We see everybody involved in the aging process here. Which is really great. I always try to emphasize, I do social media at the National Center on Elder Abuse, and this is a great way to engage your audiences, whether it be the lay public on Facebook or your professional counterparts and colleagues over on Twitter or LinkedIn. This is a great way to really get your messages out and your materials out to the communities. And it's important that when you do get them out to the communities or your audiences, that the messaging is effective, right? We don't want to use that language that might scare people or be ineffective to folks who are scrolling and seeing your organization coming up on their timelines.
And one thing I really love about that, Alycia, is that it talks about how we help support each other as we age. We are aging, all of us sitting here as we take the next breath are aging, and that's a really good thing. And so I think it just sends that message to everybody about, oh yeah, how do I want to live? How do I want to be treated? And once we get people on board with that, it really begins to make a difference. Sorry to interrupt, but Go ahead.
No, please. Thank you. That's a great point.
That's it. So then at the National Center on Elder Abuse, we do a lot of what we call technical assistance. We help a lot of people via the telephone, via email, via social media. And there are some things that we kind of put together so that we have responses to people so that we can handle the volume that we receive and be prepared. So somebody that might contact us maybe for some assistance, we might have responded that, this is from our verbiage. Now that I look back on it, I'm kind of like, oh, really? Did we say that? But yes, we did. We would say seniors are vulnerable, audience often preyed upon by unlicensed or unscrupulous contractors. Somebody might write to us and say, oh, I had this issue with somebody who came to repair a water pipe and caused more damage and took my money and ran. And so, well, we kind of say, well, these things happen, but it wasn't very helpful to anybody. So we had to work on, well, how would we change that messaging? Because we were so entrenched in this type of message.
So we changed it up. So now we use that structure of justice narrative, right? We don't see the word vulnerable in here. We don't see anybody being a victim. We don't have that victim perpetrator relationship here that we learned about in the swamp. Instead, we use a piece of that justice narrative. And the reason that we like to show this one especially is because you don't have to have every step of the structure of justice narrative in your communications if it doesn't quite fit. And that's the best part, I think, of the structure of justice narrative, because you can really customize this communication tool to your needs. So in this case, we switched it with one simple sentence. In a just society, everyone deserves to be treated with dignity and respect, regardless of age. That pulls everybody in. We address justice value, and we um, make it a collective issue, right? All of us deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. And this is really appealing if somebody is calling on behalf of a loved one and maybe is feeling really helpless, feeling frustrated. Immediately it becomes a collective. We are a team approaching this issue that you're following up with us about.
I apologize. There's a little background noise of my neighbors. That's part of Zoom, and they've decided to do a little lawn work or something today. So I'm hoping it's not too distracting, but we'll just carry on as we have all learned to do. All right. So now we go into a part of the program that I am very excited about. I know there's law enforcement on the line, APS workers, as I mentioned, SMP and ombudsman. And so what happened is we have worked on a communications strategy or tool called the Elder Abuse Guide for Law Enforcement. It's reframed to a point because there is certain language and phrases that we do want to leave in because they're very important and very impactful with the communities that we're working with. But we do want to take away the safe communities promotion, and we want to bring in this feeling again of support, talking about multidisciplinary teams. Law enforcement is not in this all alone. We cannot expect our law enforcement to be experts and social workers in elder justice issues on top of everything else that we ask of law enforcement. But we can give them some guidance on how to interview older adults or some things to look for. And we want them to be able to find resource readily. So that is how we go into the Elder Abuse Guide for Law Enforcement. I think the next slide is just the logo for it. So we can, yes, thank you, we can go right into this. So what happened was that Department of Justice was telling us that they would receive a lot of information from people in the community saying that law enforcement really didn't acknowledge elder abuse, that they would be sent out on a call of elder abuse and they would really not know what to do, that a lot of the crimes that they came to investigate they would turn away as civil matters, that this is just a family matter or a civil matter. This isn't something that we really can help very much with. But as we began to explore this more and work with law enforcement agencies throughout the country, we were able to determine that there's a lot that can be done. So what we did was we kind of put together this elder abuse guide for law enforcement with a lot of experts in the aging community, and then with a lot of law enforcement outlets throughout the country in rural and urban areas. And we did one prototype, and we took it back out to the groups that have been helping us. We had a area in Wisconsin, we had Idaho, we then had LAPD, and they all looked at us like, are you crazy? This is, you know, it looked way too academic. It was just not effective, and it was not useful. So we went back kind of embarrassed and really listened to what they told us and developed the Eagle tool. And since then, we always want to get feedback. We always want to hear from people who are utilizing it, because we're kind of a small but mighty team here in what we're doing. But I want to give you a little bit of some of the special features of Eagle, because it can help you in documenting a case. It does have a zip code based community resource locator and a state-by-state penal code section that I think could be helpful to anyone who's watching the presentation today. So if we could go to the next slide, Alycia. This is when you go onto the computer. Now, I didn't mention this. This is not an app. This is a web-based module that anybody can utilize. You can go on right now if you're, getting bored and want to pay attention to the presentation. You can put in eagle.usc.edu, and it will take you right to the Eagle site, and we'll have that resource for you later. But you put in eagle.usc.edu, and it will take you to this site. And this is just a little quick tour for you so that you have some sense of some of the things that you might want to look at when you go onto Eagle. But we have the very quick reference for definitions. So we want people to know about the different types of abuse. We want them to know some questions to ask. But again, we can't expect law enforcement or, some of all of us for that matter to be experts in all these different types of abuse. So what we've done is put together kind of a 3x5 card format, just the quick hits. This is what it might look like. Here's some questions you might want to ask. Here's some things you might want to provide for resources. So when you go on the Eagle site and you click on that, it will take you to the different types of abuse, and then you can go to this 3x5 format to get the quick hit. The most popular tool on the Eagle is this middle bar, which are the state-specific elder abuse statutes. So you will, when you click on that bar, you'll get your map of the United States. You click on your state, and it will pull up all the penal codes and elder abuse related regulations in your state, which law enforcement really likes having accessible to them. And you can put this on your phone. You don't pay for it. It will show up in a mobile format, and it makes it very usable. We were surprised to learn how many law enforcement actually have computers in their cars and printers in their cars, which comes in very handy for the checklists that we have available. We have printable and digital checklists available. So you have a first responders checklist. You click on this, it takes you to a drop-down menu that says, okay, it's supposed to be something with financial abuse. What might I need? And then it gives you a check-by-check list that you can go through and take a photograph of these documents, look for forged signatures, things like that you would just be able to be aware of. If it's physical abuse, look for bruising, take a photo of bruising, and then we have a subcategory about how to photograph a bruise. And so all those things are listed. Now if you fill the form out on the site, then you simply email it to yourself when you're done. It will retain on the site for a short amount of time, but we don't collect any data from this. This is not ours. We don't have any access to it. It is completely yours to either print out in a hard copy or fill out fairly timely online, and then print out and then email it to yourself. It's really great. It's a great form people really like. Then the other thing for law enforcement is that maybe they don't have APS out with them or don't know who to contact for this person. So if you put in your zip code in that bottom community resources area. That resource would then, you put in your zip code, and the first thing that usually comes up is the APS office in your area. The next thing is usually the Office on Aging or Area Agency on Aging in your area. Some of you will find the HICAP or SHIP program in your area next, and then SMP projects in there, Ombudsman. We put in most of the county, state-based programs. We can't put everybody in there. It would just be way too long. People ask us all the time, oh, put my resource there, we just really can't. But having just said that, if you go on this site and then you notice something that is wrong, or a phone number that's changed, or anything, please contact us and let us know. As I mentioned earlier, we're kind of this small but mighty little group, and we try to keep up on the changes in regulations, and we try to keep up on the changes in resources, but we need your help, and we always love hearing from all of you. So we hope that that will be of assistance to you. Now, on the next slide, we have for you roll call videos. And people always say, can I use these roll call videos? Can I take them? Yes, that's exactly what we want you to do. These are short 7-minute videos that were designed by the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and then one by us, that speak to different aspects of elder abuse. The one on the right-hand side is a great 7-minute overview of elder abuse, understanding of the different forms it takes and how it does take prosecutors, law enforcement, APS, social workers, a team together to resolve these cases. Then we have a nice vignette about elder abuse, financial elder abuse perpetrated by strangers, financial abuse perpetrated, another video is financial abuse perpetrated by a trusted other. Then we have one on abandonment, we have one on neglect, and we have one on interviewing older adults that we produced. Very 101. Those of you who do this for a living will say, oh, this is very basic. It is really basic. It just talks about talking with respect to an older adult, looking at them at eye level, speaking quietly and calmly without the caregiver nearby to who might be intimidating them. Just some basics. And it might be helpful for you with a starting group that you're training, or a volunteer group that you're training. The point is, use these, share them. They're right there on the Eagle site. When you scroll down, you'll see them. We welcome your feedback, and we welcome you to use them at any time. Am I forgetting anything, Alycia, on Eagle?
No, I want to rewatch these videos now, because you just reignited my excitement about these videos. I've seen them a few times.
Oh, well, if you have any questions about Eagle, we're going to give you resources and you can go through, but I think probably the best use of our left time is to keep going through, and then we can ask questions at the very end.
Absolutely. So we have what we will be sharing with you later, this quick start guide here. Lots of the team members at the NCEA like to print this out and put it on their computers. And it's really just a quick tip tool sheet or guide to remind you about what we've discussed today. Like Julie said, it's taken some practice to really be able to apply it to our everyday communications. And this will kind of help guide you and remind you along the way, to remind you to appeal to justice rather than sympathy, right? We're going to remove those those vulnerable communications or words in our communications. We're going to remove crisis and emotional rhetoric. We're going to instead do that justice and collective approach, right? We're going to highlight our solutions and always kind of incorporate, whether it be the entire social structure metaphor or part of it, and customize our communications to really apply what we've learned here today, and create those collective solutions in our communications, whether it be we're advocating for something new or we're talking to a member of the community. We really want to start to incorporate these little by little into our daily communications. And we talked a lot about resources today, and things that you can use and tools for your ongoing education and application of the reframing elder abuse project to your daily communications and practices. So the first thing that we wanted to share with you is the Talking Elder Abuse Toolkit. This is through the Frameworks Institute. They have a free online course that you can use. You can use the code WEAD2020 for to get free access to that course, and it has a ton of wonderful items in it, flashcards and videos, ways that you can test yourself. There's a elder abuse swamp game in there, so you can really start to practice and remind yourself and apply the swamp learning to your ongoing um, communications. Use the code WEAD2020 to get free access to that course through the end of May, and then starting June, WEAD 2021. We also have a sister project called the Reframing Aging Initiative. So they really focus in on reframing the process of aging, similar to what Julie was saying earlier, keeping away that crisis language about aging and trying to prevent aging. Instead, they really use this reframing communication style on aging and created a Reframing Aging Initiative. So I really recommend checking that out. That'll really expand your communications there. We also have a monthly tips e-newsletter. I would recommend you just get it once a month, and it's usually the most up-to-date research. As Julie said, we try to stay up to date on the best way to communicate and to apply this project. If we learn something new, we really want to share it with you all to make sure that we are all uplifting our effective communications here. We also showed you our PSA about George. If you want to use that PSA, you're more than welcome to. We have a short version, the full version, and then GIFs that you can use in your social media as well if you have that for your organization. And we are happy to share it there in this link. And of course, later on, if you want to follow up with us for those videos, please do if you have any trouble with this link. And then we also shared with you our publications that we've reframed also, and you're more than welcome to use those publications. These are our most popular ones: Red Flags of Abuse and the Facts About Elder Abuse. And then 12 things that everybody can do to prevent elder abuse, really focusing in on that solution-oriented language.
Listen, I'm
The
sorry.
last thing that I want,
Oh, I'm sorry. I just want to point out that
yeah, no, please.
those are translated into numerous languages. So Spanish, a few of the Asian dialects, etc. So if you have different communities that need assistance, we should be able to help with quite a few of the languages. Sorry.
Yeah, great point, Julie. Thank you for reminding me. Yeah, we have been working really hard to translate our documents because language is a barrier and can be a contributing factor to elder abuse, because we want to make sure everybody has the tools that they need to prevent and address elder abuse. So great point. So the last two here are our training resources. The first one is we refer to as TREA, Training Resources on Elder Abuse. And this has a number of research articles and webinars that we've done that you're welcome to access and share. And our last one is a training tool. It's called, we call it STEEP, and it's a customizable toolkit. You can add your own logo to it. There are outreach calendars, pre-made presentations that you can utilize, and also some support for social media if you want to use graphics, or maybe even adding graphics to your own slides to make sure that they are reframed, that there's no vulnerable or victim perpetrator photos on there. You're welcome to use those as well to really help get you started and kickstart this new communication tool.
Oh, and Stephanie
This,
is asking, Julie and Alycia, do you have a WEAD 2021 frame or Facebook profile or cover screens? Do we, Alycia?
we sure do. We have a number of them. I would encourage you to visit us on Facebook, which is the perfect segue here. Here are our social media handles here on the upper right-hand side. you please follow us. You'll find all kinds of social media tools there, in addition to the link to our WeAdd microsite. WeAdd is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day that Julie mentioned earlier, June 15th. We have a number of physical distancing tools on there, and Facebook covers, and as Julie mentioned, our WeAdd background covers here, all kinds of tools. There wouldn't be enough time in the world to list them all out to you, because there's so many, but we're just so excited about them, and you all using them. Of course, please contact us, email or call us if you do need any additional support after this webinar, have any other questions, want to get involved. So I
Yeah,
think we can move on to questions.
yeah, I think so too. And if you have something you're doing for World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, we want to know about it. We want to put it up on a map that we have that tracks all the states in the country, and it gets a little competitive. The states like to go through everything. And this year we're actually doing a WeAdd walker tracker, which has been so fun for people just to, I think sometimes think, oh, what does this mean? It means people are engaged. That means that people are considering this event, and that they're sharing it as a commonality with other people, like-minded people. And it's been so much fun. And plus it's getting me out of this chair and walking around more. And it's very easy to use. And I won't tell you too much more about it, so that you go onto our NCA site at med.usc.edu as on the screen, and then click on the WeAdd logo that you see here on our backgrounds, and then you will take you right to the microsite. And on the microsite you'll see all these wonderful things that Alycia has just talked about, and the walker tracker is part of that. So you can get involved just by signing up for that. It's so fun. Let's see. So yeah, I think now we have a few minutes. I guess we have about 4 minutes for questions. So we'll check the chat and just let us know anything you want that we should address. Okay.
While we wait for questions, I do want to highlight that walker tracker tool has been a lot of fun in this household. If you have a competitive household, my goodness, it does become a competition, but it's a fun competition that we've been sharing with our family members over here in our household.
Who's blowing our doors off to? Is it Colorado? We had thought, well, California, we'll be right out there. No, we're way down there. We've got to get going on our states. And so, help your state to beat us.
Yes,
I think we're like number 6. We've got a long way to go.
Are you seeing any questions in that chat, Julie?
No, I'm not. I'm not seeing any questions. I hope we didn't overwhelm you. Reframing is something that takes a good decade, according to frameworks, to really start to see it coming into the public discourse. And I've been noticing that just slowly but surely you're seeing more people address, rather than senior citizens, you're seeing the term older adults. Rather than vulnerable, you're seeing susceptible. Just very slowly, but there's a lot that needs to keep going for people to change. For me personally, I still have to go and reflect back on the quick cheat sheet that Alycia showed you. I have that taped up so that if I'm thinking of what do I do here, or how do I handle this situation, it just gives me a quick little like, oh yeah, that's right. This is some terminology I can use. It really helps. So we're getting some thank yous. Very good. And as people are going to share the information with law enforcement, we really appreciate that. And this is great. A community college criminal justice teacher. Oh, Linda, thank you so much. That's a great way to really disseminate. Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yeah, I'm getting the background noise coming again. Sorry.
Well, it looks like they're going to close out the breakout rooms soon. So if you all need to take a coffee break or a bathroom break, we're going to stop sharing our screen here. But I've just had so much fun